Welcome to Retirement Ramblings. I'm Scott, and today is day 194 on my countdown to retirement. So, when I got up this morning, I started perusing LinkedIn, and I saw two posts that caught my attention. The first was a Gallup survey conducted March 3rd through the 16th of 2025 on what are Americans' top worries. And they contrasted the worries during this survey versus 2024. So, number one on the minds of Americans was the economy, up 60% from 52% in 2024. Number two was healthcare availability and affordability at 59%, up from 51. Number three was inflation at 56%, up from 55. Number four was federal spending and the budget deficit at 53%, up from 51. And number five was Social Security at 52%, up from 43%. So what was at the bottom of the list? Well, the bottom five were, and this is the very bottom coming up to the bottom five. So the bottom of the list was race relations at 33%, down from 35% in 2024. Energy availability and affordability at 35%, down from 48%, presumably because gas prices are coming down. Unemployment at 36%, up from 33%. Drug use at 39%, down from 45%. And the possibility of future U.S. terrorist attacks, 40%, down from 43%. So I guess my question to you would be, why do you think Americans are more worried today about the economy, healthcare availability and affordability, inflation, federal spending in the deficit, and Social Security in 2025? And again, remember, this survey was before Liberation Day, so pre-tariff discussions in mid-March 2025. And if they conducted the survey again today in June, do you think the results would be the same, or do you think they would be shifting? Just curious. You can leave me the answers in the comment section if you choose to. And then the second article was from the Wall Street Journal, and it was entitled, "How Weight Loss Drugs Blew Out the U.S. Trade Deficit." And the article stated that 36 billion worth of hormones for popular obesity and diabetes drugs have been frantically airlifted from Ireland to the US between January and April of 2025, which was more than double what was imported for all of last year. So this has propelled Ireland, a country with 5.4 million people, to have the second largest trade imbalance with the U.S., second only to China. So anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. And then after I read those articles, I started working on my weekly financial portfolio review, and we ended the week down 0.28%, and we're now up 3.88% for the year across our portfolio. So doing less in equities than my bond holdings. So that's I'm not happy about that, but it is what it is. And hopefully we'll see the market, increase, between now and the end of the year. And then the market as a whole ended the week mixed. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average finished basically flat at 42,207, like it was up 9 points for the week from last Friday. And then the S&P 500 was down 0.2% at 5968. The NASDAQ was up 0.2% at 19,447. And the Russell 2000 was up 0.4% at 2109. Only financials, information technology, and energy sectors were positive for the week. Financials were up 0.8%, information technology was up 0.9%, and energy was up 1.1%. WTI crude was up 3.6% to 73.84 a barrel, and gold was down 1.9% to $3,385.70 per troy ounce. And as a reminder, the Federal Reserve kept the federal funds rate the same at this month's meeting, between 4.25% and 4.5%, while it continues to run off its balance sheet. So the next scheduled FOMC meeting is July 29th and 30th. So they'll do the next press conference on the 30th, and that's when they'll announce what they're going to do, which I expect it to be do nothing. So we'll see. And then they have Jackson Hole in August, so they don't have a regular meeting. And then the next regular FOMC meeting is in September, September 16th and 17th. And at that meeting, that's when most people expect the Fed will actually start a cutting cycle, or start expanding its cutting cycle, I should say. So anyway, if you would like to watch the recording of the press conference for this that Jerome Powell did this past Wednesday, and to review the summary of economic projections yourself, I'm going to leave the link to the official recording on the Fed's website down in the description box, along with a link to the PDF document on the SEP that you can download and read or look at the graphs or whatever you'd like. So then, since excuse me, then since it's not supposed to rain for like 5 days and it was hot as the dickens, I decided to go perform my summer pest control application, and because it was sunny and hot, it allowed the liquid pest stuff, the insecticide, to dry pretty quickly, so I was happy about that. I used about a half of the 1.33 gallon Ortho Home Defense insect killer that I had purchased at Costco in a 2-pack for $32.85, which included tax. So I was able to do the whole perimeter of my home. That includes the complete foundation around every door, every window, and the application basically cost me about $8.21 to put down, versus the $138.24 that I paid quarterly for the professional exterminator to come do the exact same thing that I just did today, with their insecticide, not with the home defense. So really what I'm going to figure out is, now in the next 3 months, will I see more pests than I did with the professional service or not? You know, I can always return and go back to a professional service if I find that using this insecticide or some other one that I choose to use isn't as effective as having the professional service. I don't expect that to be the case. I expect that I'll be able to do just as good a job as what was getting done professionally, but only time will tell. And, you know, my hypothesis is that I'm going to be good to go, but time will tell and we'll figure it out. Then I went out with my wife to lunch at the American Deli, and we got a Philly cheesesteak and some fries. And then I received my 2026 registration sticker for my vehicle, for my truck. So I installed that. Well, I took off the license plate. I gave it its annual washing to make sure everything was cleared. I pulled off the old sticker, and then I applied the new sticker and reinstalled it on the truck, so I'm good for another year. And then at that point, I was actually pretty tired, so I laid down and took an hour and 45-minute nap. When I got up, I ran out with my wife to Walmart, and we picked up some barbecue sauce that I needed, distilled water, among other things, a lot of, some paper products, what have you. And then I decided to start looking into what I'm going to need for communications when I go on my trip in August. So I use Visible by Verizon as my main cellular service. So I went and checked out Visible. They provide a global pass for $10 a day that gives me access to calls, unlimited text, and 2 gigabytes of data in all the countries that I'm visiting. So UK, Belgium, Netherlands, Norway, and Iceland for the $10 a day, while I'm away. I can get all my phone services there and 2 gigs of data a day. Well, my wife is a Facebook gamer, and while I do have Wi-Fi, at least about 300 minutes of Wi-Fi that I purchased on this ship as part of the cruise, I don't plan on paying for Wi-Fi beyond that. And so I was looking at, well, what if I need additional data beyond the 2 gigs a day that Verizon would supply? And by the way, that's $10 per day per phone. So if my wife wants it on her phone instead of using my phone, it'd be $20, right? Between 10 for each. But if I added an eSIM on my phone, as an example, and gave her the phone, and she could use it as a Wi-Fi hotspot, leveraging the data plan. I looked into, I guess it's called Airalo, which is a data eSIM provider for international service. They have a system called Eurolink that covers all the locations we're going to be at. I can get 30 gigabytes, sorry, not 30, 3 gigabytes of data for 30 days for $13. I can get 5 gigabytes of data for over the 30-day period for $20. I still need to check out some other possibilities like Nomad and Holofly. I understand Holofly doesn't support hotspots, but the other ones do. And, depending on the situation, it's going to be way cheaper if I just buy one of those plans, or even a bigger plan than that, for my wife to be able to play, whatever, her bingo, or whatever game she, chooses to play while she's, while we're in port, after the Wi-Fi is used up on the ship. Plus, it'll give me access to data to be able to take photos and videos and have them automatically upload to the cloud for Google Cloud. So I don't have to worry about local storage on my phone for any of the recording that we might do while we're out traveling around in, any of the locations we'll be. So it'll be more than worthwhile to do that to make sure that I have the right amount of data coverage. And then I also need to investigate, VPNs and decide if I want to have a VPN while we're traveling overseas. So I did look briefly at ExpressVPN today. They've got a special deal for 28 months for $139.72, which works out to be $4.99 a month. And that also includes 5 gigabytes of data via eSIM for a company, I guess, that they started called holiday.com. That's also a VPN. I'm sorry, is also a eSIM provider. So I might do that if I just want to do a single month with them, because I don't really care about a VPN. Let's say after I get home, then I can do that for $12.95, and that comes with 1 gigabyte of data. So again, I'm gonna do some additional research on that. And then I trimmed up. I had bought at Kroger, because they had bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs on sale for $1.49 a pound. So I bought the family pack of that, which was 9 chicken thighs. Came to $9.66 for the package. And then I spent maybe 30 minutes or something deboning the chicken thighs, cutting off all the extra skin and what have you that I don't care about. Then I vacuum sealed them, so we're going to get 2 meals out of it. And just for giggles, I decided to figure out, well, what was my actual cost, and what was the, after I trimmed it out, what did I lose in weight? So the trimming removed 2.35 pounds of weight. So the net weight after the trimming was 4.14 pounds, down from 6.48 pounds. And then the trimmed cost of the edible thighs, the way we're going to eat them, ended up being $2.33 a pound, up from the $1.49 initial purchase price. So, I'm going to be able to get, like I said, 2 meals, one of 4 large thighs and one of 5 thighs. One of the thighs was on the smaller side, so that's why I set it up that way. But anyway, vacuum sealed them, put them in the fridge for right now, and then we'll decide if we're going to have that tomorrow, one of them tomorrow, and whichever one we don't have, I'll throw in the freezer for a meal down the road. And then, we still weren't hungry from, the late lunch we had at American Deli. So I haven't made anything for dinner. We might just pick it, some stuff, and maybe have a bowl of soup, something like that. And then, right before I started making this video, I got a notice from the New York Times that President Trump had ordered the bombing in Iran. So apparently the stealth bombers dropped 3 that he had sent earlier in the day, had dropped 3 bombs. And I don't know if it hit Fordo or one of the other locations, but they dropped 3 bombs in Iran. So it's a developing story. Tomorrow morning, I'm sure we'll all see on all the news shows a debate about what's happening, and maybe we'll get, information back with regard to did we actually destroy anything? Is there additional radiation that now is generated in the area? Are we going to get deeper into a conflict? All of those kinds of activities, I'm sure will start coming across the news lines, probably at the 11 o'clock hour this evening, continuing through the Sunday morning shows. So if you hadn't seen that, keep an eye out for it. Excuse me. But that's my update for today. If you have any questions, any comments, please leave them in the comment section down below, or drop me an email at myretirementramblings@gmail.com. Otherwise, I hope you have a great evening, and until tomorrow, take care.